Hi guys, I'm back for part 5 of this, I don't know how long series. And I had a small error here, so I had to restart a 10-minute session. And just a reminder, you have been watching Skycat.live. If you wish to support me, please come to Skycat.live and click on the cat space to donate. I'm a full-time variety gamer all day, every day. Put me on in the background. Thank you so much for your time, and that's all and in terms of advertisement anyways. And now we're going back to play some more New World. Watching a video from Legal Eagle today called When Police Raid a Newspaper for No Reason. I've liked and subbed to his channel. Thank you so much for your time, and here we go. We're about to upgrade a new artifact, Grade X.
Extra, extra, Sheriff raids small-town newspaper for First Amendment activity. It's almost impossible to believe. The police chief of small Kansas town ordered a raid on a weekly newspaper called the Marion County Record in the home of its publisher. The police claimed that the reporters broke the law while investigating a restaurant owner who had a history of drunk driving.
What the hell?
The newspaper's co-owner, 98-year-old Joan Meyer, died the next day. However, days after the raid, the district attorney withdrew the search warrant, acknowledging that it lacked probable cause. Eric Meyer is the publisher of the newspaper, which he co-owned with his mother, Joan. The trouble began when the town hired Gideon Cody as police chief in April of 2023. Cody left a job in Kansas City that paid him $115,000 a year to take the job in Marion, paying $60,000 a year. Meyer said he received anonymous tips on a variety of tales about why Cody took such a big pay cut to move to Marion. Tipsters said he was accused of sexual misconduct. Reporters investigated the tips, but Meyer said the newspaper could not verify them to its satisfaction. So Meyer approached Cody before he was sworn in as chief and asked him about it. Chief Cody told him, quote, "If you print that, I will sue you." And in May, reporters started looking into allegations that Marion restaurateur Carrie Newell had been driving on a suspended license. Newell was in the midst of applying for a liquor license for her catering business. She had also purchased a restaurant, and that liquor license was up for renewal in August. But state law prohibits such licenses being issued to applicants with felony drunk driving convictions or multiple alcohol-related convictions within a certain time frame. And a source reached out to the reporters via social media. The source also sent information to Councilwoman Ruth Herbel, who served as vice mayor. Reporter Phyllis Zorn verified the information about Newell's license was accurate by conducting a driver's license record search on the Department of Revenue's website, using Newell's first and last name and the driver's license number for Newell that the record had received from its source. The results showed the tip about Newell's record was accurate. Newell's license was ordered suspended because of a drunken driving conviction in 2008 and a series of other driving convictions. And apparently the information received by Herbal and the record listed conditions Newell would have to meet to have her license reinstated. One of them was installation of an anti-drinking ignition interlock on any vehicle that she drove. However, the record decided not to publish the information because Meyer suspected the anonymous source may have been Newell's estranged husband.
Town needs Carrie's business. You know, this is a dispute between her and her estranged husband.
Meyer said he did not want the newspaper to be used in a divorce dispute. Quote, instead, the newspaper consulted an attorney and, without naming Newell, last week notified the sheriff and Marion's police chief that it had received the material from someone who had bragged about retaining connections despite no longer working in law enforcement. When reporters from the Marion Record showed up to a public forum Newell was hosting with Representative Jake LaTurner, Newell called the police, who told the reporter to leave.
Why'd you kick them out? For their reporting.
And a few weeks later, Newell went before the city council and accused the record of spreading lies about her.
It was brought to my attention today that my private and personal information that was legally obtained by a local reporter was shared with Councilmember Ruth Herbel. Take note of exactly how vile your behavior. This is going to be placed with the county attorney because this is going to become a case, that's why.
The council voted 4-1 to give Newell her liquor license. Herbel was the only person who voted against Newell. The restaurant Newell operates has a license under the name of the former owner, Tammy Ensley. Ensley owns the hotel affiliated with the restaurant and happens to be the sister-in-law of District Attorney Joel Ensley. Newell was set to go before the city council on August 7th. And just days later, on August 11th, Chief Cody obtained search warrants for the newspaper's office, the publisher's home, and the vice mayor's house. The affidavits authorizing the searches and seizures were signed by Magistrate Judge Laura Beyer.
He bragged to an officer on his staff that this was going to be the biggest raid that Marion County has ever seen.
Now, here's a video of the raid on Meyer's house.
Don't you touch any of that stuff. This is my house.
That's Joan Meyer on the left, who passed away the next day. And in a strange twist, Magistrate Vire also has 2 DUIs on her criminal record.
But now we learn that the judge herself also has 2 DUIs. Those incidents both happened in 2012 in Morris and Coffee counties. She also had a suspended driver's license.
When news of the raid broke, it made international headlines because it's so rare for police to raid a newsroom. Eric Meyer described Cody as a bully, saying that he reached out to notify the police that, quote, a source had given us a file that we thought had suspicious origins. We checked it out to verify that it was accurate, but we're not planning to do anything with it. Their response was the typical fashion of a bully. Instead of asking a question or getting material, they came with an atomic fly swatter to seize our equipment and apparently tried to put us out of business. And yeah, this is exactly what laws protecting the free press are meant to prevent. Now, Kansas law requires a search warrant application to be supported by an affidavit. A search warrant shall be issued only upon the oral or written statement, including those conveyed or received by electronic communication, of any person under oath or affirmation which states facts sufficient to show probable cause that a crime has been, is being, or is about to be committed, and which particularly describes a person, place, or means of conveyance to be searched and things to be seized. Now, the local court repeatedly told the media that the affidavits weren't available yet. And finally, on August 16th, Marion County Attorney Joel Ensley withdrew the search warrant on the newspaper and the Meyer home, citing insufficient evidence to support the alleged crimes and seizures. The warrant on Herbal's home has not been withdrawn, and the police haven't returned her property. Now, Ensley said his review of the case found, quote, insufficient evidence exists to establish a legally sufficient nexus between the alleged crime and the places searched and the items seized. As a result, I have submitted a proposed order asking the court to release the evidence seized. Now, the media only obtained the warrant affidavits after Ensley withdrew the warrant. Newell told the police chief that, quote, on a phone call from 8/7/2023 at or around 19:01 hours, Eric Meyer admitted to her that an employee of his, Phyllis Zorn, downloaded the private DOR record information, and that is why there would be no story. Cody then writes that Newell told him, quote, Eric then threatened her, if you say anything, I will print this story, and I will continue to use anything I can to come at you. I will own your restaurant. Now, obviously, Newell has animosity towards Meyer, but does Cody? Well, the affidavit says, quote, I received an email from Eric Meyer. In the email, he states that he received a copy of someone's private Department of Revenue records. In the email, he alleged possible police misconduct regarding how the Department of Revenue record was obtained. So Cody maintains or misapprehended that the DOR records are private when that's not really the case. And the fact that he perceived Meyer's call as alleging police misconduct makes this look like a pretextual search, especially since Cody was already mad that the newspaper was investigating sexual misconduct allegations. And in the affidavit, Newell says that the reporters invaded her private mail. Cody says he received a document that, quote, contained a screenshot with a DOR record addressed to the victim, Carrie Newell. I then contacted Carrie. She stated she did not know how someone was able to access her mail, and she gave no one permission to obtain access or open her private mail. He concluded that, quote, downloading the document involved either impersonating the victim or lying about the reasons why the record was being sought, based on the options available on the Kansas DOR Records website. Now, the Kansas Motor Vehicles Records requires users to select specific criteria to access another driver's information, including listing the purpose of the search. However, the Kansas Department of Revenue said that Cody was wrong about which site Zorn used. Quote, the service used in the Marion County situation is the KDOR's free license status check, which does not require you to select criteria for the purpose of checking the status of an individual's driver's license. Cody doesn't say why he thought Zorn used the other website, but even if she had, she probably didn't break the law. The Department of Revenue said that, quote, information from a driver's license status checker can be obtained and reported on legally as long as the requester has the required information. Now, the Kansas statute section 21-6107 defines identity theft. But it's hard to see how the facts show that Meyer or Zorn obtained a document with the intent to defraud someone in order to receive benefit. And the affidavit says that Newell claimed, quote, she did not download or authorize anyone to download any information from the Department of Revenue, and someone obviously stole her identity. But one would hope that the chief of police actually would know how these searches work. You don't need to steal someone's identity to access this kind of information on this website and many government websites. Now, the affidavit accuses the newspaper of violating section 21-5824, which prohibits certain crimes on computer, including making false information. But again, how would the reporters make or distribute false information in this case, especially with the intent to defraud? Cody apparently believed that they illegally obtained the information from a website and then used it to make Newell look bad. But even there, they're assuming that the information was true in the first place. Now, the amount of material and equipment that the police seized was staggering. Eventually, Ensley filed a motion to release all the items seized from Meyer, and the judge entered an order to that effect. Officers returned some of the items taken from Meyer's home and office. However, the newspaper's lawyer, Bernie Rhodes, said that there was a discrepancy between the inventory the police gave him and the inventory list filed with the court. Quote, the inventory list I got omits the drive that we now know has never been returned to us. This video shows the raid on the newspaper. You can see Chief Cody and several officers taking computers. And the police who searched Meyer's home are also accused of taking photos and bank records. Now, the amount of material and equipment that the police seized was staggering. Eventually, Ensley filed a motion to release all the items seized from Meyer, and the judge entered an order to that effect. Officers returned some of the items taken from Meyer's home and office. However, the newspaper's lawyer, Bernie Rhodes, said that there was a discrepancy between the inventory the police gave him and the inventory list filed with the court. Quote, the inventory list I got omits the drive that we now know has never been returned to us. Now, if you've been raided by a sheriff for First Amendment activity, you'll need a good lawyer. But if you want a great lawyer, my firm, the Eagle Team, can help. If you've had an injury or death in the family, suffered from a data breach, or were involved in a car crash, we can represent you or help you find the right attorney. It's really important to find an attorney right away so you're properly represented. Just click on the link in the description for a free consultation with my team. Because you don't just need a legal team, you need the Eagle Team. Click on the link below. Now, the city suspended Chief Gideon Cody on September 28th. He resigned later that same day. And on the day that Cody was suspended, a local Kansas City television station aired comments by Carrie Newell. She said that after the raids, Cody asked her to delete text messages between them, fearing people could get the wrong ideas about their relationship. Newell told The Record that she complied with his request, but instantly regretted it.
Cody did say that he was seeking a warrant. In my pea brain, I did not, in no instance did I equate that to a raid.
And Newell and Cody have contradictory stories about who decided to pursue the search warrant. Cody said that she complained about the newspaper to him, but Newell said that Cody called her on August 7th and informed her that she was the victim of a crime.
If somebody tells you that you've had your rights violated, she's going to assume that she's had her rights violated.
The Associated Press filed a public records request, which yielded yet more information about the raid. Before the raid, he emailed a local prosecutor, Joel Ensley, summarizing what he thought the evidence showed. The subject line reads, "Crimes?" ? The other emails reveal that Cody reached out to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation seeking their assistance. Within the hour, Special Agent Todd Leeds replied that he was forwarding the matter to the special agent in charge for her review. Leeds emailed Cody back on August 8th to ask for the cell phone numbers, Facebook account names, and email addresses for Newell, Herbal, Meyer, and reporter Phyllis Zorn. He said, quote, "I am getting a case opened up today." Later that night, Leeds sent Marion police officer Zach Hudlin an email about a search warrant for Meyer's home. Quote, "Did you guys execute this today?" Hudlin replied no, though the warrant would be executed the next day. Apparently, none of these public officials ever raised concerns about raiding two houses and a newspaper because the newspaper looked at someone's driving record. Now, the KBI has refused to comment about its communications with Chief Cody. The KBI took over the investigation on August 14th, but its earlier involvement with this case shows that the agency is not an impartial actor. And all this certainly puts Tony Matavi's comments that the media isn't above the law in a more sinister light. Publisher Eric Meyer called for the appointment of a special prosecutor to handle and distribute the KBI's report on the three raids. Now, the AP obtained video from the raid on the newspaper's office from Officer Zach Hudlin's body cam. It shows him looking through the desk of reporter Deb Groover, who had been looking into anonymous tips about why Cody retired as police captain in Kansas City. And the video shows Officer Hudlin calling Cody over to review the contents of a desk drawer. Cody says, quote,
"Keep a personal file on the other."
but Hudlin's clipboard blocks most of the view of Cody bending over the drawer, and there's no video of that moment from Cody's own body camera. And Groover filed a federal lawsuit against Cody in his individual capacity for violating her First and Fourth Amendment rights.
I had my phone in my hand because I was reading her, Carrie's most recent crazy Facebook post about us. All of a sudden, the police and the sheriff's sheriff's SUV and all this, they come in at different angles in the parking lot, and they've got all, these vehicles up front.
During the raid, Cody seized Groover's personal cell phone, and according to Groover, quote, Chief Cody first handed Miss Groover the warrant when he arrived, and as she began to read it, she began to access her personal cellular phone, telling Chief Cody that she needed to call Eric Meyer. Chief Cody responded by reaching over the papers and snatching the phone out of her hand. In this clip, you can see the officer saying that, quote,
The search warrant covers us recovering everything.
One of the officers also read Miss Groover, Miss Zorn, and an office administrator their Miranda rights while Chief Cody watched, though she was never placed under arrest.
In fact, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
The complaint says that Cody had, quote, no factual basis to believe Miss Groover's personal cell phone was evidence of the alleged crime or any crime, and alleges that Groover's personal phone was not verified as having been used to access the Kansas Department of Revenue's records website. However, quote, Chief Cody seized the phone and removed it from the premises along with the other equipment. The cell phone was taken directly from her person, not from her desk. Since Groover wasn't named in the warrant and her personal cell phone was not listed in the application, Groover argues that the seizure of her phone exceeded the scope of the warrant, violating her Fourth Amendment. The scope of the warrant only authorized at most a preview to exclude the personal cellular phone from seizure, and Kansas law establishes that a person's mere nearness to others independently suspected of criminal activity does not, without more evidence, give rise to probable cause to search that person. Groover alleges that the warrant application was both facially invalid and substantively invalid. Facially, they contend that a search made on a public-facing website was not illegal, and substantively, the warrant was invalid because, quote, existing evidence did not establish a legally sufficient nexus between the alleged crime and the places searched and items seized. In his Facebook post explaining the raid, Chief Cody did not explain how there could have been probable cause to believe that Ms. Groover had committed identity theft or any crime. Chief Cody also failed to acknowledge KSA 60-483 in his post, which provides that a journalist shall be entitled to a hearing when asserting a claim of privilege for any information gathered, received, or processed. Now, obviously, the First Amendment protects freedom of speech and freedom of press, and as Groover explains, rather than looking for driver's license documentation that was the alleged reason for the raid, the officers started examining records that the newspaper kept about Chief Cody. Groover explained that, quote, in mid to late April 2023, around the time of Chief Cody's application for the job, the newspaper started looking into allegations of misconduct against Cody based on anonymous sources who had worked with Cody in Kansas City, but declined to go on record with their claims. At the time, the newspaper did not have his personal file, but they did not run a story about the allegations. However, according to the complaint, Cody was well aware that the newspaper was investigating his background. Quote, specifically, Cody was aware that Miss Groover was the one conducting the investigation, having discussed the investigation with her around the time of his hiring in April 2023. Quote, upon belief, Miss Groover's affiliation with the Marion County Record, which had investigated his alleged prior acts of misconduct and recently published a story about Miss Newell's prior driving history, sparked Chief Cody's desire for retaliation against her personally in violation of her First Amendment rights. The body cam footage seems to support this claim since it showed that officers rifling through Groover's desk and alerting Cody to the reporter's files about him. Groover left her job because of mental anguish after the raid.
You know, I despise him now. I mean, I didn't like him from the get-go, but I'm afraid of him. I'll be honest, I'm afraid of him. I think he's capable of doing something far worse to me.
She's been a reporter for 30 years, and on the same day that she filed the lawsuit, she got a tattoo on her arm that reads "Freedom of the Press." Now, Cody filed an answer to this complaint. His main defense is that other people agreed that he had probable cause for the search. He says that he, quote, specifically included multiple layers of law enforcement professionals, including the sheriff's office, the KBI, and the KDOR officials, and the county attorney to establish that the affidavit of probable cause and the ultimate search warrants were appropriate before he proceeded forward. None of the other agencies ever expressed any doubt that Cody's actions were somehow unlawful or improper. Now, that's not necessarily a bad defense, but that also doesn't necessarily insulate him from liability. The law enforcement agencies relied on the information that Cody provided to them, and in light of Cody's answer, Groover's lawyer might amend the complaint to add these other law enforcement agencies as defendants. Cody alleges that he had to take Groover's phone because she started to call Eric Meyer with it during the raid at the newspaper's office. Quote, Cody told Groover not to contact anyone on her phone during the search warrant process. Groover ignored this request and began to dial the phone to call Eric Meyer. When Groover ignored this request, Cody confiscated her phone to preclude Groover from advising Meyer about the police search because at the same time, other officers were meeting with Meyer at his home. Cody said that he had to remove all of the electronic devices from the newsroom because it was taking too long to review the information they contained. Quote, defendant Cody had assistance on the search from the Marion County Records offices from a cybercrime deputy from the Marion County Sheriff's Office. This deputy attempted to merely pull data from Phyllis Zorn's computer for almost 2 hours before any computers or phones were removed from the office. The wireless internet and other data was so slow to download onto the deputy's equipment that the deputy advised Chief Cody that it would be much faster for him to merely take any equipment that was possibly involved in the illegal download back to the deputy's office and search the equipment at his station. Only hours after failed attempts by the deputy to secure data from other computers on site at the Marion County Record did the law enforcement officials decide to remove the computers and cell phones. Now, defendants typically avoid giving lengthy responses like this in their answers. This is the kind of response that's better made with discovery, when you can back up your assertions with other evidence, or perhaps tailor your defenses to what the evidence comes out. But obviously, they're trying to counteract the really terrible narrative that has already been circulated, and this seems like a partial defense to why things were seized. And while it does explain some things like seizing the equipment, it doesn't necessarily explain why the search warrant was issued in the first place. The plaintiff's lawyer will now check the body cam videos, the paperwork, radio traffic, and testimony by others on the scene to determine if Cody is telling the truth. But this entire paragraph might not even matter to Groover's claim that Cody didn't have the right to search and seize her personal cell phone and other material. Now, Cody denies knowing that Groover was investigating him. Quote, defendant Cody denies the allegations in paragraph 36 of plaintiff's complaint as it relates to the allegations that Cody was knowingly under investigation by Miss Groover. But he then admits knowing that she was looking into his prior work history and the hiring process. Quote, plaintiff Groover and defendant Cody exchanged many emails in the weeks and months before August 11th, 2023 about his work history, interviews about new officers in the department, and a variety of other matters. To date, defendant Cody's email accounts contain absolutely no emails with plaintiff Groover outlining her, quote, investigation into alleged prior misconduct by Cody. But Cody also reveals his prior work history includes 5 instances of misconduct. Quote, Cody admits and recalls that during his 24-year career, he received discipline from the Kansas City Police Department for the following policy violations. 1, for using lights but not sirens when proceeding through an intersection. 2, for repeatedly calling a murder suspect's cell phone to try to convince him to surrender. 3, for using curse words against a subordinate that had broken chain of command and obeyed a direct order from him. 4, participating in a police car chase. And 5, telling an inappropriate joke. Now, the alleged reason the reporters at the newspaper were investigating Cody is because a tipster told them that he was facing discipline and demotion for sexist comments he made to a female officer at the Kansas City Police Department. And it appears that that information was in the file that the police looked at during the day of the raid. Now, at the same time, it's going to be hard for the plaintiffs to overcome qualified immunity. Now, as we've talked about many times, qualified immunity only allows civil rights lawsuits to go forward if officials violated a statutory or constitutional right that was clearly established. And we don't have time to go into the clearly established standard. But the federal court will consider whether a hypothetical reasonable officer would have known that the defendant's conduct violated the plaintiff's rights. I'm sure Cody will argue that all of the other local and state officials involved in the case thought there was probable cause for the warrant, and that protects him. And I'm sure Groover will argue that they were all wrong, or that they relied solely on information that Cody gave them and was false or not sufficient. And as for the issue of whether Cody has a right to seize Groover's phone, it also depends on whether a reasonable officer knew he was violating a clearly established right. Now, generally, police officers cannot take a mobile phone without a valid warrant to seize it or search through its contents. You have a right to privacy that extends to digital information contained on a mobile phone, though there are some exceptions. And Groover's personal mobile phone wasn't included in the warrant application, it seems. But Cody says that he had to take it from her because she was about to call Meyer. But he also claims officers were already meeting with Meyer at his house. So in a sort of a few good men situation, it's going to be harder to prove that calling would have interfered with that investigation. But we certainly don't know what will happen next with this story or this lawsuit. But we definitely haven't heard the last of this case. Yeah, there's so many twists and turns to follow, I'm probably not going to have time to cook dinner. Luckily, I have today's sponsor, Factor, because Factor makes meeting your
Israel is essentially doing the work that the Western world should be doing.
Deadly retribution is raining down on Gaza. Israel says it's targeting Hamas,
which is resolving terrorism in the Middle East. There is no other way. There's no other way. We've tried everything, giving them money, opening the borders, having conversations, singing for peace, teaching about peace. Listen, I'm a Jew. I live in the States, right? But I'm very aware that the Holocaust was just around the corner. And another Holocaust is happening right now.
See, I used to get punched in the face, but now I do the punching. My family hated because most of them died in the ovens. Hamas is not the wave, you know what I'm saying?
2 years old. The things that's been going on lately, you just have to separate it from the Israeli-Palestinian situation. It's a different story. I personally know 4 people that have been taken out of their homes.
And they killed, and they kidnapped, and they tortured.
Thank you, Andrew Callahan and Channel 5 for this day old video that came out yesterday called Israel Rally. I have liked and subbed to your channel. Thank you, sir. I really respect it. One of the greats.
I'm not trying to justify anything with Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but this is way above this. This is terror. My thoughts about Hamas is that it's an equal to ISIS.
They're interested in getting rid of Israel and all the Jews around the world. That's in their constitution.
I don't feel it supports the Palestinians. If you would care, you would never launch this attack.
Rockets were fired into Israel as gunmen infiltrated several border towns and bases.
They stormed Israel by land, sea, even paragliders. And then they went on a rampage, slaughtering civilians in the street.
It was a horrible situation. It was the worst day in Jewish history since the Holocaust. 13 people died.
So we're here to give each other support that we need right now. Because when you're sitting alone in your house and seeing these things, you just want to fall apart. And so that's why we're here today, to bring each other up and to lean on our community.
I have friends that were kidnapped in a party that was made for peace. The Peace Festival was the most difficult week I've ever had in my life. I cried many times and I'm traumatized because it felt like we're not safe in our hometown.
What do you think they expected Israel to do after this kind of attack?
Let's say if Mexico, God forbid, would attack America
and slice up everyone in Texas, New Mexico, what do you think America would do?
America would not leave one stone unturned until they get all the terrorists.
They're expecting the outcome. They're expecting the attack back. That Israel is doing at the moment.
Israel has declared war after that unprecedented terror attack from Hamas. The death toll in Gaza has surpassed 3,700.
Your family in Palestine?
Yes, I do.
How are they doing?
We lost 14 relatives in the bombardment, and currently I haven't heard from relatives in about 12 hours. So,
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Gaza, which your audience know is about half the population is under the age of 18. So any Israeli incursion into Gaza is going to be killing a lot of children.
Palestinians digging through the rubble to rescue these children trapped in their beds after an Israeli strike.
Israel has had a history of doing that. Israel has had a history of doing it, but what has happened in the past is probably going to be done in spades now.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the goal that Israel has now is to destroy Hamas. And they also, of course, are trying to free the hostages that Hamas took last week. It's going to be impossible to do that without civilian casualties.
I see that babies in Gaza die. I'm sad about that. But I cannot. If it's their babies or our babies, it's not about choosing, it's just getting rid of Hamas, so their babies can live in too.
According to the protesters, their primary demand was the return of the 205 hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza, many of whom are babies. Naturally, I wanted to see if I could get in touch with one of these hostages. But to be honest, that felt damn near impossible. Then, later that day, I got a call from Koshin.
Too much of his world being negative.
Israeli freestyle rapper I met at the Free Palestine rally.
Hamas. I'll turn him into hummus.
He told me he had a friend named Alana Zaytun who had six family members kidnapped by Hamas militants. They were snatched from their homes and driven across the border back into Gaza. He asked if I wanted to talk to him, and I agreed. So we set up an interview for the next morning.
Andrew,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. We're getting big out of the way.
For sure.
There was an echo on your end.
There's an echo on my end.
Yeah. They recorded me this way too. Yes. So 360 on
Exactly. 360 or 180, depending on how you look at it.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey, start by just telling us your name and sort of what's going on.
My name's Alana Zaytun. My 6 family members have been taken hostage to Gaza. My mom is one of 5. Her eldest sister, has 3 kids. Tanya, Juan, and Shawan. Her husband doesn't live with their twin girls. We're 3, Emma and Julie. And they woke up Saturday morning to their red alert, which means rockets were being fired. Missiles were being fired from Gaza into Israel. And so they swiftly went to their bomb shelter, which a bomb shelter is just a room that is protected as a bomb shelter. At this point, the Hamas was terrorizing the kibbutz. And they began to hear them in the neighbor's house.
انزل
And smoke started filling in their house because the terrorists were burning down homes. In a way to smoke people out of their houses as well, as if they were rodents. At this point, my cousin Shawan sent a voice note to her immediate family that brings me to my knees. She said, we're probably not going to make it out of this. Smoke is filling, in the bomb shelter. We love you. And that was the last we heard from them. We at this point knew they were gone. And then eventually we saw TikTok. One of the twins, and could see Shawan from behind. Really looks to be her niece Amelia.
I see this, how they murder babies in their cribs, and then I hear Free Palestine. They really want to help their people, they should revoke Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Israel has not been in the Gaza Strip since 2005. There's no occupation. There's absolutely no reason for none of this to happen. We just want that piece of land that we were there for over 2,000 years to be ours, and we're willing to share that with the Palestinians in peace. We want peace.
At this point, I was becoming very confused. On one hand, it says the state of Israel was founded in 1948. Yet people at the event were telling me it's been their homeland for thousands of years. What the hell is going on? I figured I'd find a rabbi to help me answer that question.
So one thing I was really curious about is, what is the importance of Israel in the Jewish faith?
My name is Rabbi Shlomi Leverton. I'm a Chabad rabbi.
The first verse of the Torah speaks about the creation of the world, and God said, I created the world, and I decided that I wanted to give the land of Israel to the Jewish people. It was God's presence to the Jewish people as a part of the chosen nation to be able to do our job as Jews, to be a moral light to the world. And when did the Jewish people first arrive in Israel? I mean, Abraham was in Israel, Jacob streamed the ladder that happened in Israel. So who was Abraham? Abraham was the first person who recognized that the world had a God and a creator. So Abraham was like proto-Jesus. OG of monotheism. So he definitely is in that way. Because I mean, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity are all defined as Abrahamic religions. If you want to go into like religion, every religion has to start with the revelation. For Christianity, it would be Jesus, and for Arabs, it would probably be Muhammad, and for the Jewish people, it's actually a revelation at Mount Sinai. There's not one person who had that revelation. History tells us that the Jewish people, there were over a million people that had a revelation at the same time. And that was on our way to Israel. Shortly after he started the Davidic dynasty, and King David had control over Israel.
Okay, y'all know.
Shortly after, King Solomon's temple was destroyed, and the Jews were expelled by the Romans.
The Romans threw them out in 1st century BC.
Though a couple of them stayed in Israel, the far majority of Jews scattered around the world and would not return until 2 millenniums later, when the Zionist movement began in Eastern Europe.
Zionism is Jewish nationalism. What the Zionists did was they took a religious community and they made it into a national community. Basically, this religious community had an affinity for Palestine, had been in Palestine in ancient times. And so the idea was the restoration of the community back to its ancestral land.
Israel runs deep in our blood. There's like a sense of belonging and feeling and connection, and it's just a part and parcel of the Jewish people. We pray 3 times a day. In our prayers, there's like 20 mentions in a day of returning to Israel, coming to Israel. Our hope was to always get there and get back there and be there. Throughout history, if you see Jews going to the gas chambers during the Holocaust, they were singing a song, Ani Mamin, I believe. And it was about belief that God will take us to the promised land. So true Zionism was this idea that Jews believe that God will bring us back to Israel.
Well, something else happened while the Jews were in exile. The advent of a religion called Islam, a religion which began in the year 610 with a man named Muhammad, who claimed to be the last line in a string of prophets that included Jesus and Abraham. Now, the 3rd holiest site in the Islamic faith is called the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which sits directly in the heart of Jerusalem.
Al-Aqsa is a particular flashpoint.
It is apparently where the Prophet Muhammad said his final prayer before beginning his miraculous journey into the kingdom of heaven. Oh, and it was also built directly on top of Solomon's temple. You know, the original Jewish temple the Romans burnt down 2,200 years ago.
An Israeli police raid on Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque has sparked fury among Palestinians and condemnation across the Arab world.
Yeah, this is some seriously ancient beef. Anyways, let's go back in time. For 600 years, the territory of Palestine was controlled by the Ottoman Empire. But then after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in 1912,
the British got what's called a mandate for Palestine. In other words, they were supposed to supervise Palestine during the interwar period.
Then, for some reason, in 1917, the British passed something called the Balfour Declaration, which declared Palestine to be a national home for the Jewish people. At the time, less than 5% of Palestine was Jewish. But soon, that would completely change.
Jews began to arrive with the Zionist movement. Jewish immigration was something that, at first was an annoyance and then became a real problem. The problem is that it was impossible to, keep the two sides separate. So the British just threw up their hands at a certain point and said, okay, we're done. And that's when we see the conflict really beginning the way it is now. You have a mass nationalist movement beginning in Palestine. You have in Israel, the Zionist movement arming itself. And so therefore what we see is 2 groups that are vying for control over a single small area, actually, about the size of New Jersey.
So Israel declares statehood in 1948.
Israel declares statehood in 1948. This is after a brief civil war with the Palestinians, the indigenous inhabitants of Palestine.
6 million Jews were killed outright by the Nazis. Something had to be done. We went ahead and done it. We set up the Israeli government in Palestine, moved some of the Arabs out.
About 720,000 of them were forced to flee for a variety of reasons, including terror, including ethnic cleansing, including the fact that it's a smart thing to do to leave a war zone. And, the Palestinian question fell off the face of the earth, actually. Now, it was the Palestine Liberation Organization, starting in the late 1960s, that brought the Palestine issue back again. Maybe your audience remembers some of the terrorist acts that, was called television terrorism, where there would be hijacking of airplanes. In one case, they blew up these airplanes after television crews arrived, not with anybody on board. They'd cleaned them out first. But the idea was to make a spectacular series of raids that would keep the Palestine issue alive, and it worked. I mean, who talks about Kurdish nationalism now, but we all talk about Palestinian nationalism.
Why is that?
Well, because the Kurds weren't able to keep their question alive, you know, and the Palestinians were able to do that. And sometimes it took spectacular acts of terrorism. Sometimes they were bloody, sometimes they weren't. But, you know, in all cases, they kept the question alive, which is why I think what Hamas has done recently is the same thing, fits into the same pattern. Keep the question alive, make sure there's no compromise.
I do want to mention one thing. I'm sorry, before we continue, I just want to mention one thing, is that it's a little weird to sit down and talk about the history of Israel when barbarians come and literally slaughter Jewish children, Jewish mothers, Jewish fathers, Jewish grandparents, and literally just slaughter them. It's not a time to like look at the history, who's right, who's wrong, and let's say for whatever reason, you know, they had a claim or had something or whatever it is. That doesn't ever allow for what happened on Saturday or Sunday.
6:30 a.m. Saturday morning, and they came in and slaughtered, only from the Peace Festival, more than 260 people.
That was their crime, going to a music festival in the woods. And Hamas came in after they threw in those hand grenades, and they sprayed machine gun fire on all these young, happy, beautiful people who were just there to have a good time, listening to music in the woods.
And then I hear Free Palestine.
You're killing each other. So don't talk about...
At some point during this rally, I realized that almost nobody in attendance was quite sure exactly what the Palestinians want. For many of them, it was simply the murder of all Jews.
They're interested in getting rid of Israel and all the Jews around the world.
And most of the people who are at those rallies are people who actually believe in the destruction of every Jewish person. It's not that they don't want us to have the land of Israel. They don't want us to have any land. They want us in the ocean.
Or to establish a global caliphate like ISIS wanted to.
They want to have caliphates in the entire world, so it's coming our way.
It all reminded me of America after 9/11. I was obviously 3 years old, so I don't remember that much, but I do remember asking, why did this happen? I was always given the same answer. Al-Qaeda hates us because we're free.
Osama bin Laden is just representative of networks of people who absolutely have made their cause to defeat the freedoms that we take, that we understand.
However, it's these sort of oversimplifications that serve to obscure the true reasoning behind many of these international conflicts. The day before I attended the pro-Israel rally, I attended a Free Palestine rally and was able to get more clarity on what Palestinians mean when they say Free Palestine. At the rally, I learned about the blockade.
For 16 years, the Israeli government has suffocated Palestinians in Gaza under a draconian air, sea, and land military blockade, imprisoning and starving over 2 million people and denying them medical aid.
Gaza's been under blockade for 16 years. No one can leave.
They've been denied the basic human rights of just living a life along with having food, water, fuel, electricity.
And that's what we're focusing on here today.
Like I said, 16 years of siege, 16 years of being held hostage in an open-air prison.
I also learned about the intense travel blockade and sundown laws Israel has placed on Gazans.
If you're living in Gaza, are you allowed to travel freely throughout Israel?
No.
Can you just go for like the weekend?
No, it's not a free movement to travelers. So in order to be able to cross from one to another, you have to go through checkpoints. And Palestinians have to be back in the territories at nightfall.
And that curfew is imposed by Israel?
By Israel.
I think that a lot of people, when they say, Free Palestine, a lot of them are referring to the economic sanctions and the inability for people to travel out of Gaza. What do you think about that being lifted?
Yeah, so, the Gazan border was open on a daily basis into Israel. So people of Gaza were
Okay, guys, I am going to wrap it up for the evening. I don't know why, but it was a short session today. I think I only got like 9 of my usual 12 hours, but I've also been recording. Or I don't know. I don't know. Or yeah, I think it was actually 12. It was 12. I think it was 12 hours. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's about 5 or 6 sessions now. Last one was only an hour before I faded out, but it was still a good session. Got a lot done. And, I would stay on, but I'm very tired and I did not caffeinate today, but I will caffeinate tomorrow. or no, I won't, because I have I have something I got to do in a couple days. But in any event, I want to thank you for paying attention to my stream, and come to my website if you wish to support me. Could use all the help I could get. Thank you so much. I'm gonna take a look at the display capture here. Thank you so much. I guess I'll sell all this tomorrow. I'm not really worried about it. Yeah. We'll just like log out for now. Yep. Exit. Yep. And so yeah, come to skycat.live. I'm a full-time variety gamer all day, every day. Put me on the background. Click on the cat's face to donate. Thank you so much. I will be on tomorrow to do some more. The day after that, Thursday, I have a real life engagement for at least 3 to 5 hours or something. So I won't be there as much on Thursday. But then the weekend, I'm going to go hard. I'm going to caffeinate. And I'm going to do the whole 3 days pretty hardcore. Like definitely 36 hours over the weekend or something like that, I think. So on that note, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Love you. Bye.